Maybe even like 8:15, we could take a break to come back to big pictures discussion, because otherwise we might run out of material for tonight.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. This meeting of online presenters has begun. Now, we don't have any guests today, but we do need to bear in mind that we are an international club. And in order to become a member, you have to be a member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 official speeches. And alternately, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership by giving a 2 to 3 minute speech to demonstrate your speaking abilities. Now, our requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. I know you did not already do so, but the Sergeant at Arms has already changed the name on your panel to reflect a meeting role for today. But if you want to do that yourself, all you do, 3 dots, rename, and select the role that you will be doing. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note the meeting is being recorded and your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, can everybody remember to remain muted when you're not speaking? To make sure that we get Toastmasters set on the right path, the man who is going to help assist us in dealing with dilemmas today, please help me welcome our president, David Carr.
I don't know, Joni. Just having me as your president might be the dilemma right there. Is the terrible choice that people made to put me in this position. We don't have as many people here as we would like. We've got some familiar faces missing, people sick, people busy, life happens. I did make some attempt to actually promote the tip of the day that I'm going to be sharing in a few minutes, just to see if that would bring somebody into our meeting. And yeah, so far, doesn't look that way. I have been talking with Jim and Chris Gold, who many of you remember were original members of this club, and they have been doing YouTube for years. So I may have them in as part of a YouTube program that I've been talking about for far too long. Maybe them and at least one other presenter who could talk about different aspects of how to make yourself into a YouTube worldwide sensation. So that's something to work on. Trace also shared with me a lead on somebody to come in and talk about evaluations, and I've been horrible about not following up on that. But that might be another thing that we can do to help boost up the club.
David, just tell me the date that you want and I'll get them booked. I'll take care of it.
Oh yeah, okay, all right, sounds good. Let me turn things over to our Toastmaster of the day, Graham, who is going to lead us through a small but highly energetic meeting.
That's the one. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you, Mr. Club President. Yes, and Table Topics Master and Chief Cook and Bottle Wash. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Cairns. I am your Toastmaster for today. I'm also your Vice President Education. So, Tracer, we shall talk about an evaluation workshop. We have a number of changes to the agenda and flexibilities to our agenda. Isn't that a wonderful way of putting it? We have flexibility in our agenda. At this stage, for example, we do not have, we have a grammarian, I see. That's going to be Joni. We don't have a watcher, I do not believe. Do we need a watcher for today? You're going to, no, who's watcher? Watcher.
I volunteered Sherry to
there you go. Sherry is the R counter and the watcher. I can see her name there. Well, see her roles in front of her name. Okay, so that's that. We only have the one speaker. Have you spoken to an evaluator yet, Joni? In that case, who of our... We have Tracer and Sherry both down as evaluators. I think we'll probably keep it as Tracer as your evaluator then, if you're happy with that. Yes, Sherry, you are no longer required as an evaluator, even though you
If
put
Sherry would
yourself
like
down.
some practice, we can both do an evaluation. It sounds like we've got time to do it from two perspectives.
No, I'm seeing a shaking of the head from Sherry.
No, I'm good. I'll just
Right.
focus on being the odd counter and the watcher. But thank you, Tracer.
Fabulous. We also don't have a general evaluator because Jim called in sick, essentially. So instead of having a general evaluator, Andrew's put himself down as general evaluator. So there we go. That solves that problem as well. In that case, let's just get started, shall we? Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'm looking at the agenda and things are changing as we speak. We have some people who will be assisting us in our roles. We've just run through who they are. You know who you are. I can see your names down here. We'll work on that. Let's move straight into the tip of the day. Now, tip of the day is something which is unique to this club, or at least unique in my experience to this club. It's where we invite a member to present a tip relating to technology or to leadership or whatever they like, but essentially a tip to the club. Now, normally we ask them to be 3 to 5 minutes. We have some flexibility with the agenda tonight. So I've told David, feel free to go up to, say, 7 minutes. But with a tip of the day, will you please welcome our club president and his tip on whatever it is he is going to give us on, something technological. I understand that at least. Here's David Carr.
All right. Well, it's actually not that technological. I'm going to share with you a little bit of a lesson from the media training that I was given when I was preparing for some TV appearances. Now, these were actually streaming TV appearances. So I did get a little bit of a clip on the BBC a few months ago. And Friday morning, there should be some data from my company, SimilarWeb, citing it on a CNN report about Truth Social, but that's not an interview responsibility. They might use a chart or something with our name on it on screen. I have gotten opportunities, though, to go fairly regularly on a Schwab network. So Charles Schwab, the financial services company, runs its own quasi-financial TV show. The host is a former Fox News reporter who got an opportunity to be the anchor of this program. And so I guess that's a pretty good gig for her. And getting your company or yourself on some kind of TV opportunity can be a big win if you don't blow it. So I went into these opportunities with a decent amount of excitement, and I've talked about how the online presenters experience, of course, helped me prepare to be on TV. And it did sort of, and table topics and other things helped. But there were also some specific things that I got training on that I'd like to share with you. Dealing with how do you handle the question that you don't want to answer? And the truth is, you do not want to just ignore that question. You want to somehow pivot from it. The word my training used was bridge from it. I can't tell you that, but I'll tell you this other thing. Now, going on a financial news program, one of the big things was, well, David, what do you think is going to happen to Delta Airlines stock price? Well, I can't tell you that. I'm not a financial analyst. But I can tell you that their digital engagement is really high and climbing, and they're getting lots more opportunities to sell tickets. That's the basis that I can talk to you on. I had to figure out how to make those pivots. And you could also get a challenging question. For example, we have periodically been out there saying that the audience of Twitter is falling since Elon Musk took over. Elon Musk, of course, periodically says that our numbers are garbage, that our estimates are completely wrong. Same thing for Truth Social. Now, in an interview with, say, the New York Times, I might go back and forth with them by email. And maybe somebody's challenging our numbers, and I can say why I think there's some validity to our estimates, even though they are estimates. But if I'm in a TV situation and I get hit with that, I need to be prepared for it. And I need to figure out a way of pivoting. And I want to share with you a little bit of video that was shared with me in my training that I found very illuminating in terms of how to deal with a tough situation. Now, the speaker here is the CEO of Spirit Airlines. And if you're in the US, or I think they fly into maybe the Caribbean, North America, the mention of Spirit Airlines probably sends a shiver down your spine. It definitely puts a cramp into your legs because they're known for having no leg room. They're ultra economy. When they do the safety briefing, they say, in the event of explosive decompression, be careful to quickly insert your credit card into the oxygen dispenser before you help those around you. So, Spirit Airlines has just been rated by Consumer Reports as having the worst customer service in the world, being the worst airline in the world. And the CEO is going on CBS Good Morning, the CBS morning show. I think it's the Sunday morning show, to discuss this and see how he handles the questions.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So when you know that you're at the bottom of the list, you simply say to them, I don't care, my planes are full.
Well, what we say is that we care about what our customers care about, which is price. And one of the things that Consumer Report survey didn't ask is, where do you get the lowest fare? And so they asked about leg room, and they asked about check-in, and they asked about bag fees and things like that. But the total price that customers pay on Spirit Airlines is less than they pay on anyone else, and that's why they love us.
But does that mean that you can't have customer service and low price?
We do have great customer service,
Well,
because we give
obviously
them the
not in
lowest
terms of what
price
they say
possible.
in this survey.
Well, again, if you're measuring the physical distance between you and the seat in front of you, our seats are tighter than the other guy. But customers care about price, and we allow customers to travel for a lower price than they can otherwise travel.
Could Charlie fit in those seats?
He could absolutely fit in one of our big front seats, which will only cost you $20 or $40
No,
more.
he could fit in it, Peter, if he likes riding with his knees touching his chin, he could fit in. But Ben, I got to hand it to you for being here, because most CEOs in your position, if they had been rated the bottom of the list, they wouldn't say, let's go on CBS this morning. Most of them would say, I have a pedicure in Peru, rather than come.
No, see, I disagree with that, Ben, because I think they would come because they want to say we're full.
But let's talk about the lists that are important. You're saying bottom of the list, but we're #1 in margin performance for our investors. We're growing faster than any other airline in the U.S., so we're employing more people. We're the lowest fare in the industry. So we're #1 in the things that matter most to our employees, our customers, and our shareholders.
But because we're rated so low, does it make you think, well, maybe we can give people some peanuts? Maybe we can give them a bottle of water. Do you think about that?
Do you think a bag of peanuts or a bottle of water is going to make you feel better about sitting in a tighter seat?
No.
What makes people come to the Spirit Airlines is that our average fare in the first quarter was $75. And we fly an average of 2.5 hours. $75.
You know, you guys have done a lot of shock marketing in terms of getting people to come to your flights. You showed me an ad that you're working on. We have that ad about the seats, because there is no legroom and the seats don't recline, right?
That's right.
Can we show that ad?
Yeah.
There it is. They won't bend you over.
That's right. They don't recline, but they don't bend you over either.
So if you had to compare yourself to a retail industry or a fast food chain, what would that be?
Well, you know, in the retail space, we'd probably be the dollar store. And if we were a restaurant, we'd probably be McDonald's or some kind of other fast food chain. And, you know, no one goes into McDonald's and is surprised they don't see filet mignon on the menu, right?
Yes.
So when they come to Spirit, they know what they're getting. They know they're getting a lower total price than they'll get on anyone else. They know the seat might be a little bit tighter. They know they're going to have to bring their own things to eat on board. But they love that.
So basically, you're in the center seat next to the 2 sumo wrestlers, but the price is right.
Well, the sumo wrestlers must have paid for those outside seats.
Ah, there you go.
And when you fly, where are you sitting, Ben?
You know, I sit in different parts of the plane, and sometimes when the pilots let me, I'll sit in the cockpit with them and talk to them.
Well, you're clearly doing something right, because as Charlie said at the beginning.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there, because by the time she gets around to saying you're clearly doing something right, she has kind of gotten
You've just muted yourself, David. By the time she got to saying you're doing something
Okay.
right.
All right. By the time she got to saying you're doing something right, she's kind of gotten the hosts on her side. I'm sorry, he's gotten the hosts. Yeah, he's gotten the hosts on his side, and they're agreeing you must be doing something right. A little bit later, they talk about really what you care about is flight safety, and he's able to say something about having, a great safety record. The contrary example that they also showed us was a woman from Mattel going on another morning show to talk about a remake of Barbie. And it was kind of dangerous territory for Mattel too, because sometimes people talk about Barbie and unrealistic body images for women. And there was some remodel of Barbie where it was going to be a little bit more realistic. And the executive who was on the show had a series of talking points that had come out of the marketing department, and she was robotically repeating them. And she paid no attention to the questions she was being asked. So you do have to make it a conversation. You can say, well, I can't answer that, but I can tell you this. But you have to have a response. You have to pay attention to what you're being asked. Use those table topic skills to pivot to saying something else that does relate to your experience or what you can say or are allowed to say, but still be engaged with the conversation. Enough for today.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that tip of the day. And I have to say, as somebody who used to teach media, teach business people how to react to the media, some useful insights there. And I thank you for those. I will say this about Spirit, by the way, who were the subject of David's video then. I remember being on a Spirit flight once when we were actually going to land ahead of schedule. And the cabin crew manager coming on saying, hey, we're about to land ahead of schedule. Please remember that for the next 20 times you are flying Spirit and we're behind. I thought, yep, that's got to make a joke about it. Well done. Thank you for that. We only have one. Oh, I should do a couple of things that I didn't do at the beginning of the meeting, and I do apologize about that. I need to go back to the agenda and say I did not, for example, say what our theme for today was, and that fits beautifully with David's tip of the day. Our theme for today is dealing with dilemmas. And one of the things that we learn to do in Toastmasters is to deal with dilemmas, particularly in this club where technology can throw itself into the mix in ways that are designed to frustrate us. So learning to deal with dilemmas is today's theme. And the word of the day, and our grammarian will no doubt be checking how often we use alliteration during the meeting. Alliteration is, of course, the occurrence of the same letter at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. So, for example, dealing with dilemmas is alliteration. So for our word of the day, I'm not actually asking you to use the word alliteration, but I am asking you to use alliteration in your presentations today. So think carefully and creatively about crafting your words. That's how to use alliteration. So try to use some alliteration in your presentations today, because prepared presentations are not what we always get the chance to. Clary close to cluttered closet, closed closet. That's not alliteration. That's a tongue twister. Yes, I have a lisp. And I always had to do, silly Sally sat on a seesaw, and I would spray everybody while doing it. So, but use alliteration during the meeting. So that's our word of the day. We've got a timekeeper, Carolina. Carolina, can you show us how you will be indicating times during the presentations? For example, Joni will be speaking for between 5 and 7 minutes. How will you let her know?
Hi, David. I will show a green card, a yellow card, and a red card. If you see the yellow card, you should be aware that your time will be up soon. And if you see the red card, your time is up. And you have to be careful because after 30 seconds, you're not going to be qualified if you surpass the 30 seconds. That's going
Fabulous.
to be my role. If you
Hey.
are an impromptu speaker, you will have between 1 and 2 minutes. And
Thank you,
if you're
Carolina.
an
So
evaluator, you will have
2 to 3.
you will
Yeah.
have between 2 and 3 minutes. Yes.
Thank you. So keep an eye on Carolina's little box, and behind her, the cards will change color. I mentioned that we have only one prepared presentation today. Well, other than the tip of the day, and that is the speech which is going to be given by Joni Renee Laidlaw. I'm sorry, Joni Renee. This is from the Engaging Humour Path, and it's a level 2 project about learning your style. It's the introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. And for a period of 5 to 7 minutes, will you please welcome Joni with Me Granny Used to Say. Me Granny Used to Say, Joni Renee Laidlaw.
Thank you, Graham. Now I see that I have been rubbing off and effectively teaching us the Jamaican alphabet here at Online Presenters because you knocked it out of the park as it relates to how you did that introduction. So let me explain. My granny used to say, basically means my grandmother used to say. For me, that was one of my major introductions to what mentoring would be like. Now, if I say that I didn't have to deal with dilemmas as a child, that wouldn't be true. I can tell you that quite a lot of it was traumatic, and I disliked a lot of the time that I spent growing up. My grandmother, you see, was from the silent generation, or was that before that? She was old school, old school. I mean, old school. A child should be seen and not heard. Old school. Train up a child in the way they should grow, and when they get older, they will never depart from it. Old school. None of this new. I have an opinion. I can express myself, and I have my own mind. Most of growing up, though, I could not understand why she would teach me the things that she did. As a child, I could never understand why this lady kept saying to me, always make sure you have the correct change for your bus fare. There is somebody there to collect it. There's somebody there to make change, Grandma. What? That makes no sense. At my age, though, I realized that quite a lot of mentorship comes from our lived experiences, and it's why Toastmasters use I statements. Now, we had different experiences growing up, we had a different life, but the interaction that I learned from that tip actually became a transferable skill. Think about it. You're having a very hard day. You are about to go onto public transportation. Everybody is agitated, angry, and just not in the mood. Then you take out an exceptionally large bill and you hand it to the person and say, here you go, happy to pay. The solution is, and the Jamaican has to come out, me have no change for that. I have no change for that. That just took your bad day from to. Always have correct change meant pure exchange of words. I mean, after all, you might not have the ability to be able to conversate. I'm going to have to knock myself for grammar on that one. But have a discussion with somebody in the moment when your brain is gone because now you're upset and it's been too much. A lot of mentorship is about sharing your experience, but remembering that your lived experience is not the other person's lived experience. But it doesn't mean that whatever a mentor shares can't actually become a transferable skill. I learned from my grandmother certain things that I use now. She has a calendar, not the one that you put on the wall, the one that you actually use to get the water out of spaghetti. I love that calendar. I kept it forever. To be honest, I still have it. I still have it as a sentiment of they don't make things like those anymore. Things like those that survived not only her lifetime, but mine as well. It was with her through her adult life, and it's still with me. Things like make sure that you have this, and this already prepared made life a lot easier. when you're a working mom and you have things to do, things like wash as you go, that makes a world of difference to completing a task. When I was smaller, though, and having to deal with mentorship, I was not having it. My granny used to say, little girl, you don't see that the plates are there. Wash them up while you're cooking. And I will translate. Little girl, don't you see that the plates are there? Wash them while you're cooking. Now that I'm older and I have to do it, I understand where she's coming from. If you do things periodically during the course of getting an activity done, when you get to the end, anybody, everybody, what's not there to greet you at the end of cooking for those of us who do? A big pile of dishes to be washed. But as a child, I really, really was not about hearing that. That's the beauty of how mentorship works. Once you get a transferable skill, even if it's an I statement that you don't understand, when I am doing this, this is how I approach it, doesn't mean that you have to take it. This you can tell you for many, many years, I did not see the point. I thought it was way too much effort. Why do you have to be so miserable and cantankerous? I understand that you're a teacher and teaching small children she says seashells by the seashore can be complicated. I mean, after all, being able to craft young minds does take a lot of work. But after your mind gets to a certain age, on craft, we're good. Now that I have my own 13-year-old, I realize that that journey of crafting a mind doesn't change. And though her version of mentorship might have been, children must be seen and not heard, mine is children provoke not your children unto wrath. I had to learn that to get back at her by that phrase, by the way. But also it taught me that what I learned from my mentor that I didn't agree with, I didn't have to repeat. I had the opportunity to build and grow on the information that was given to me, even if it was given to me in a way that I never like when my granny used to say. I didn't actually like it when my grandmother would say that. That's the beauty of mentorship. It's about taking the parts of someone else's lived experiences and, like my granny used to say, learn from the mistakes of others. See me and come live with me are two different things. Seeing me and living with me are two very different things, which means your perception might not be the case. But that's the beauty of mentorship. You get to take the parts of the information that resonate and then hopefully one day be able to pass it on to someone else. Back to you, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Joni. Me granny used to say lots of things to me too, and I took some of them on board and threw the rest away because that's how it is. I do have to say, though, I really loved your creative colander cue that you used in there. See, there's some alliteration. Try to use some. Well done. We will have an evaluation of that presentation a little later, but between now and then we have some things we have to do. And one of those is my favorite part. Oh, I need to find out the timing on that speech before we go any further, please, Madam Timekeeper.
7 minutes and 14 seconds.
7:14. So not only is Joni eligible to win the Best Speaker Award for today, but as the only speaker today, Joni wins the Best Speaker Award. Yay! Well done. Okay, that's the prepared presentation. But the bit about Toastmasters that I enjoy more than any other, I think, is the table topics. Well, I would hope so. I'm in the district table topic contest on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. But table topics, as we all know, is a chance to practice our extemporaneous speaking. And today we have plenty of time, so I suspect that all of us will get a table topic of one form or another. To explain how he's going to run the table topic session and to give us our various topics to discuss, please welcome the one, the only, he's only human, don't swoon, here's David Carr.
Thank you, Graham. your word of the day about alliteration. For some reason, the first thing that popped in my mind, even though I was a little kid when this was in the news, was President Nixon's vice president, Spiro Agnew, had a phrase, the nattering nabobs of negativity, which he applied to the press as well as other politicians who were criticizing his administration. But my topic is negativity. How do you deal with negative people? Sonny, you strike me as a pretty positive person. How can you not be with that name, Sonny? How do you deal with negative people, Sonny Fridge?
That's a great question. How do I deal with negative people? Well, John Maxwell says, you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. And that's one way that I deal with negative people. I surround myself with those who support me, people who want to see me succeed. They're my biggest cheerleaders, but they also let me know when I might be not as concise and consistent and correct as I could be. When I do meet negative people, I try not to judge them. However, I try to love them from a distance if they have to be in my life, so that their negativity doesn't bother me. And then the other way, the negative thoughts in my mind when they say, who do you think you are? And how about the last time you failed? Well, I learned to flip the script and I use positive affirmations. Who do I think I am? Well, I'm a Toastmaster. That is a great question. And that's what I would tell them. Who do I think I am? I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am consistent. I am correct. I am courageous. And so that is how I would deal with negative people, the negative emotions like fear and doubt and their partners. And I am positive in general because life is good and keeping an attitude of gratitude. Back to you.
Thank you, Sonny. The topic of dilemmas made me think of medical dilemmas, which are some of perhaps the most difficult professional dilemmas that one can face. And one of our members is a longtime emergency room physician who must have dealt over his career with some very difficult situations of triage and who to treat first. Tell us a little bit about it, Andy. What are the dilemmas that you face as an emergency medical physician?
Thank you for the question, David. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, dignitaries, and those that are visiting. In 1986, there was a law passed called EMTALA. And the EMTALA law was passed because there was an incident where someone was in the parking lot of a Chicago emergency department, and they could not get into the emergency department, and they died in the parking lot. And the reason they were there is because they were referred from other hospitals that refused to treat them because they didn't have the money to be treated. The EMTALA law basically said that the thing that's unique about emergency medicine is we see and treat everyone regardless of the ability to pay. This is becoming increasingly challenging because of the political environment related to the Dobbs decision, which is abortion rights. In many states, particularly Texas, we're seeing a lot of problems because the law in Texas basically says if you assist somebody in a miscarriage or an abortion, you can go to jail for the rest of your life, as well as other fines. So emergency physicians and others are afraid to help those people because the criteria of going ahead and doing something is, are they near death or going to die. And when you're seeing somebody bleeding out, you're saying, when do I say, okay, they're going to die if I don't take an intervention versus not? So this is the dilemma that's taking place increasingly in the United States between red states and blue states. In Iowa, where they put a complete ban on abortion without any exceptions, obstetricians are leaving the state in droves. They're leaving it like locusts are leaving an area that's been harvested. So these are some of the real problems, because now you don't have specialty care for anyone that wants it, because the whole specialty is leaving the state. This is the issue where one has to think about, and it's a dilemma. I see the timer is red, so I will stop here. I can talk on this for a long time.
All right. All right. Thank you, Andy. Definitely a tough dilemma. The next person that I call on is going to be challenged to use as much alliteration as possible in the space of 1 to 2 minutes. Teresa, what alliteration do you have in store for us?
I'm gonna pass. I'm still working on my evaluation.
Okay. All right. Well, the rest of you have had just that much longer to think about how you're going to handle this question. And so, Sherry, you must be perfectly well prepared to handle the question of, it's not really a question. It's just a prompt. It's just a challenge. How much alliteration can you use in the next 1 to 2 minutes?
Thank you for challenging me, David. I really appreciate you. The sun shined today, totally with lots of sun and sunshine. I went to work while my father found out that he had a doctor's appointment always on Wednesday with Dr. David. I am here today at this terrific Toastmasters table topic session, trying my best to answer all questions I have been asked. This is not an easy enough task to take on by myself, but I'm trying my best by answering the question to give the best answer as I possibly can. Back to you, tabletop.
All right. Well, sort of along the same lines about my discussion about journalism, this is where I'm much happier to be asking the questions than to be answering them. I have asked Graham to be prepared to show some timing lights so that I can pick on Carolina. Carolina, there are many dilemmas that come up in the course of doing business, of being a person in the business world. What is the toughest dilemma you have faced at work?
Thank you, David, for that question. I have several dilemmas when I'm working, and some of them I have them daily, on a daily basis. and some of them once a year. First of all, I work in the mining industry, and we have some dilemmas that are related to environment because you have to be very careful because you are extracting some metals and minerals from the earth, and you produce some waste, and you have some communities that have to live with the work you are doing near their home. So you have to be very careful with that, and you experience some dilemmas because one side you are generating some new jobs, you are generating money, some benefits for community, and on the other side you need big amounts of water and you create some pollution in the air. So you have to be able to balance things in order to create some prosperity for communities, for the world, without impacting in a negative way the earth. And there is a saying here in Chile that says you cannot make a cake without breaking some eggs. And this is 100% true. And the other dilemma that I live on a daily basis is how you can achieve the goals that you have without impacting the workers' health, without permitting that overload people with work. Yes, because you need to achieve the goals, but you cannot abuse people with their time for resting. Back to you, David.
All right. We didn't mean for you to have to time yourself, but you did so very skillfully. That was good. Well, I think I have one remaining target of opportunity who has not already spoken, and that would be Graham. So Graham, what motivated you to pick dilemmas as a theme for this meeting? Has that been on your mind lately for something? Are you in the midst of a dilemma, and can you explain it to us while using as much alliteration as possible along the way?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I donate plasma every 2 weeks to help my community and to get the free snacks which come after donations each 2 weeks. It's party pies and strawberry milk are the highlights of my fortnight. But I donate plasma because I am a positive person. And I know I am a positive person because when I first donated blood, they told me what my blood type was, and the blood type was that I was A positive. And I have a little key ring which says A+, which means that I am a positive person. But the thing about donating plasma every 2 weeks, and I do it because it benefits my community. It helps people who have cancer, for example, because my blood products are used quite regularly for cancer sufferers. I do it because I have the time, I have the availability, and it's something that doesn't cost me anything. But it does create a quandary for me because it means that every 2 weeks, no matter how I feel, at least mentally, I have made a commitment to go and give plasma. Now, obviously, if I'm not feeling well physically, if I have a cold, or if I have some other form of physical illness, I don't donate plasma because the last thing that a cancer sufferer requires, for example, is somebody donating blood which carries with it dengue fever because I happen to have been in North Queensland or in Jamaica or somewhere where you've got dengue. I don't know. Do you have dengue in Jamaica? Damned if I know, but dengue is disastrous if you are. See, there's alliteration there. But I do face a quandary. What happens if I just don't feel like it? Because we've all had days where we just Don't feel like it. Oh, please. There's got to be some. No, I have made this commitment and I shall contain my commitment. I shall curate my depression, my anxiety, my blah, and I'm going to do my damnedest to do what I have declared I will do, and that is donate every 2 weeks. All right, that was really bad. Mr. Topics Master.
All right. Mr. Dad Joke Man. Okay. Now, is a quandary? I guess a quandary is maybe a step below a dilemma. It's kind of the same thing. A quandary doesn't sound quite as serious, I guess. Timekeeper. Maybe we have a timer's report on all our speakers so that we can vote on them.
Yes, Sunny, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Andy, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Sherry, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Carolina, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. And Graham, 1 minute and 31 seconds. All
And
qualified.
who's doing the
Yes.
vote counting? Where do we send it?
Sorry?
Where do
What
we
did you
send the
say, Emily?
votes? Where do we send the votes?
In the link, I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Okay.
And
All
you
right.
will click that link
All right.
and you
Yeah.
will choose your favorite.
All right. Thank you for doing double, triple duty today, as many of us are. Well, let me hand the meeting back to our Toastmaster of the day, who's, or actually, well, I'll hand it back to you and you can be the traffic cop for where it goes from there, Graham.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I'm now going to hand control to our general evaluator for today, because in this club, the general evaluator does the role of introducing the evaluators and all of the other ancillary roles. So to take over the next half of the meeting, please welcome General Evaluator Andrew Byrne. Hey, Andrew. Good to see you back, by the way.
Thank you very much, Graham. And I want to thank everyone in the club for being here tonight. Right now, we're going into the most important part of the Toastmasters experience, and that part is the evaluations to help us all grow and learn from what we've experienced in the meeting. Toastmasters, after all, is an experiential learning activity. We heard a speech today, and we are going to have an evaluator in terms of Teresa, who will give us feedback on what she saw, what she heard, and how did it make her feel. Go ahead, Teresa. 2 to 3 minutes.
Oh, Andrew, I love when people can pronounce my name. Thank you so much. Today we heard a wonderful talk by Joni, and it was a beautiful story about lessons learned from her grandmother. And also, I think that lessons can be slow on the uptake. When you're getting the lesson, sometimes it needs to marinate with you many years before you actually get what the lesson is. And Joni's grandmother provided lessons from everything from making change on the bus, and years later we understood why, and then washing dishes, a simple task like that, but then wash as you go, so that you know when you're done cooking, your task is almost done. And that she shared a beautiful part about how mentorship is about sharing your experience, but it's also not always a transferable skill. And I really appreciated that, because sometimes the lessons that somebody desires to impart for us isn't something that really resonates with us, or it doesn't land, and that's okay, just as long as the pipeline of information keeps coming. And then it's up to you to decide whether that's useful or not. Joni is excellent at using her hand gestures. She's very animated when she speaks. And then my favorite part was this big eye roll that happened. And I could just imagine her being a teenager and her eyes rolling all the time with her grandmother in the room. I'm like, I bet that happened a lot. As we all know, Joni is an incredibly gifted speaker. She's funny, she's charming. And the one piece of feedback that I would, for an area of improvement that I would like to see, is her microphone really struggles, especially when she gets going, and it stops working, or it distorts in some way, and we can't hear the part that was the funniest takeaway in the whole thing. And so I think there's a technology issue, especially because that is her natural gifted state of being so animated and so beautifully charismatic. And we miss a lot of that because the tech doesn't support her in a way that is would be the most useful. So I'm hoping that Joni gets a new microphone and that we can continue to hear all the beautiful things and the range of excitement and emotions and all of the beautiful things that she brings to her speeches. And I look forward to hearing from her again. So thank you so much, Joni. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Teresa. That's yours, Andrew.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, having had no other speakers, I asked the timer, how long did our evaluator speak for?
2 minutes and 52 seconds. Qualified.
Wonderful. We also had other functionaries that were providing feedback to the group, and we'll start hearing from them. Do we have the watchers report?
Yes, thank you so much for that, Andrew. Well, tonight we have a small crowd, as it was mentioned by David, and everyone looked great. I think everyone had a good background. I believe at the last meeting, someone brought to Carolina's attention to get closer to the camera, and she did that today at the beginning of the meeting. I know when she was timing, she kind of dropped back, but that made a little more sense to kind of drop back from the camera. But everyone's background looks great. The only thing I have to say about the backgrounds that are blurred, or I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes when we're moving around, you get distorted. But other than that, everybody seemed to be engaged, and everyone was a good distance from the camera. And it was a great meeting and a great look, I should say, for all of us as I was watching everyone. But we were all definitely engaged. No one was on their phones. We were all giving each other our undivided attention. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. In addition to a watcher, we also had a grammarian. Will the grammarian give us a report on the word alliteration and how many people use it?
I bet you can't beat the boat of bites that we had today from Graham. I think he practiced it. I'm not sure if it came from all the time on the radio, but I did like everyone's attempt at using alliterations today. David, I'm not even going to try to do the one that you did at the beginning of table topics, because I know I may bite my tongue for that one. I will point out, though, because it was based in grammar, Graham said lots and lots of lovely alliterations in the chat. Now, that's not grammatically correct, but it was grammatically correct based on the theme and what we were trying to do. And it fell into the play on words that he did today. I like during your table topic speech when you said, I am a positive person, because that was a play on your blood type and a play on words. For Sunny, I like that you went with the letter C. I'm wondering if it's because Sunny likes S. So Sunny's concise, consistent, correct, courageous use of alliterations might sound the same, even if not written the same. And the locusts are leaving. They're leaving like locusts, was, I believe, your alliteration. Sherry, your quite quick, quirky, though questionable take on table topics left a lot for me to try to pick out of what But you know what? You had the most difficult task, and I can tell you it was painfully playful, but I liked how you took it on and you went about that challenge. So I couldn't exactly pick out, okay, I like this one, or we need to correct this because it's the first time we're doing it. But overall, I thought it was good practice for us because, and I thought somebody would do this and just cheat and say, when it comes to the use of alliterations in my sentences, but nobody did. They actually made an attempt to utilize alliteration. So great use of language, online presenters. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. Next, we have body language. How do we do for body language? Anyone take over that role?
Well, that would be Watcher. I think you already called on, did you already call on Sherry?
Yeah, I already called on her. So do we have any other roles that I have not called on?
Yes, the R counter.
Thank you very much. Whoever
So-
has out counter, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Thank you so much. So my job was to note any filler words, crutch words. Graham, you had one R. Sonny had a well. David had an Carolina, you had a few ums and ers, and you did say the, so you had a repeated word. And Teresa had an and she said and it, so she had that double. She probably knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so back to you. That's
At this time, we've gone through our reports. Sunny, go ahead.
As chat monitor, I was to note some of the helpful and humorous and encouraging posts in the chat. It started with some comments about clubs and components before and after COVID. Trying to do some alliteration there. Let's see. Also, there were comments regarding the CEO segment and the great chatter after David Carr's comments about media and the CEO of Spirit Airlines. I loved one comment by David: Spirit sells seats that squish. Whoa, now that's some alliteration right there. And locusts are leaving, which was already said. And so that was mostly it from the chat in terms of helpful comments. And the Spirit Airlines CEO was given some kudos for reframing, moving the conversation from one that was all about the consumer reports to his preferred frame about price and profitability. Wow, that was good alliteration right there, David. Okay, and that is my report. Back to you. Chatty comments in the chat.
Okay, we started the meeting on time. It is now 8:45, which gives us the opportunity to either continue our discussion or, more importantly, lock down our meeting for next week. It's up to you all. I turn it over to the Toastmaster of the day to help us decide where we're going to go.
Fabulous. Thank you for that, Mr. General Evaluator. Before I go any further, I will ask, do we have all of the votes in for the best table topic? In that case, Carolina, can you please announce?
The winner is Sherry Blake.
Yay! Well done, Sherry. Yes. That had to be the most challenging table topic I have seen for a long time. Long. Yes, it was. I'm thinking, I'm glad I didn't get this one. Although I was going to tell you the story of Mary Anning. Anyone know who Mary Anning was? Mary Anning is believed, well, actually is generally agreed to be one of the leading paleontologists, one of those who actually started paleontology as a field of study. And yet Mary Anning had no formal training in paleontology, but she would collect the bones of dinosaurs from along what's known as the Jurassic coast of England, around Dorset and that sort of area. And she would collect these bones. There is an argument that Mary Anning was in fact immortalized in the child's tongue twister, because she ran a shop where she would go and collect all of these bones, and then she would take these bones and clean them up and determine what they were and say where they had come from, but she would then sell them to gentlemen explorers who had more money than her. And so she would sell seashells by the seashore, and she would sell bones as well. And so Mary Anning may well have been the woman behind She Sells Seashells by the Seashore, which, when you think about it, is a really lousy place to be selling seashells. You would think that she would have set up some sort of niche marketing and sell other things and have the seashells as a side. But yeah, no more alliteration. Okay. We don't have any guests, so I don't need to call for guest comments. Let's take a brief look at our next meeting. And our next meeting is on May the 6th, which is not Star Wars Day. That's May the 4th be with you.